Is Amanda Knox guilty? I'm Deception Detective. I'm an attorney trained in statement analysis, and this channel exists to expose lies and manipulation. Before we proceed, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. In today's video, we're going to start the first part of a new series about Amanda Knox because lots of my subscribers are interested in her case. She won the latest community poll I did. And I think the best way to dive into her case is to actually start at the very beginning. So I found this video. I've not watched it yet. I've watched the first few minutes. And I think it's a great way to bring everyone to the table on this case while we perform our analysis.
Pronto, buongiorno. Senta, qualcuno è praticamente entrato in casa sfondando la finestra e ha messo un molto disordine, c'è una porta chiusa.
So if you're listening on podcast mode, this is an Amanda Knox documentary. It's basically going to tell us the entire story, and it's interspersed with interviews from what I've seen just scrubbing through the video. And it is kicking off with a phone call to the police. I'm going to translate it and see if you pick up on what I just picked up on. And this is a mistake of liars. So listen closely.
Pronto, buongiorno. Senta,
So we have an Italian phone call. Hello, someone entered the house and broke the window.
qualcuno è praticamente entrato in casa sfondando la finestra e
They messed everything up and there's a locked door. So I might do a video series on 911 calls because there's a particular way that people lie on 911 calls. But this is a very basic lie. So when you're telling someone, when you're recounting an event, honest people, a reliable statement is first person, singular, past tense, and the way people tell their story should be like a parade passing in front of them, right? So they should be telling us what they are seeing and not making any conclusions. So regarding this broken window, the guy making the phone call wants us to believe that someone broke the window and entered the house because he made a point of talking about the broken window and about the locked door, right? So someone broke into the window, got into this room because they couldn't have come into the room through the house. However, look at the order he mentions things in. If someone broke into your house through your window, you would say, it looks like someone broke the window and came into my house. Or someone came into my house through the window. Look how he phrases it.
Pronto, buongiorno. Senta, qualcuno
Someone entered the house and broke the window. That's not the correct order of how these things go. If you're staging a murder, then you could enter the room, do whatever you're going to do, and then break the window, right? You entered the house, you broke the window. So if he did have knowledge about what actually happened, he's leaking it here just by the way he's ordering these actions. Someone entered the house and broke the window. That might be 100% true. But if it is true, it tells us that some random third party did not break into the house through the window. It means whoever committed the crime was already in the house. And then they broke the window to make it look like an invasion. All right, at this point, an important caveat. I don't know too much about this case. So I'm just pointing out things as I see them. So we are going to, this video should bring us all up to speed on the case and all the players involved because I know there's multiple players involved, right? Multiple suspects, multiple people accusing each other. And the fact that this is one weird phrase, one sign of deception in the ordering does not make someone a liar, right? So I have to say this, I try to say at least once in every video. In order to conclude that someone is lying, we need multiple signs of deception. All right, so I just want to be clear about that. I'm just pointing this out because I'm making a mental note of it myself. If the guy who made the 911 call committed the murder, well, he just leaked what happened to us right here. He leaked that someone came into the house, committed the murder, and then broke the window. So just keep tabs on that the same way I'm keeping a note of it. We don't need to make this the one thing our case hinges on. It just stood out to me.
Uno è praticamente entrato in casa sfondando la finestra e ha messo un botto di disordine, c'è una porta chiusa.
Also, notice how he's rounding out his little story. It's kind of like the McCanns where they flesh out their entire script. So not only is he conclusive that someone broke the window and got into the house, but he also feels the need to point out the locked door, right? So this person could not have come in any other way except for that window. So it definitely wasn't me because the room was locked. So I couldn't have gone into that room. Whoever did it came in through the window. They must be someone who doesn't have a key to the house. It seems like unnecessary persuasion. There are also some other things this guy is doing on this call that are red flags for 911 calls. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a series analyzing 911 calls. We can listen to a call and determine if the person actually committed the crime or is innocent, and it will be a very stark difference. There's certain things you can reliably expect to hear on a 911 call, on an emergency call. And so far, he's missing all of them.
On November the 2nd...
But then again, this 911 call might be edited, right? He might have actually asked for help and all the other things he was supposed to do. And that might just be one segment of the call. Although I think, right, he was saying hello, then he immediately went into that. Well, let's just keep listening.
2007, police in Perugia receive a phone call. There's been a break-in. When police arrive, they discover a young woman has been stabbed to death. She's Meredith Kircher, a British student, a girl with everything to live for.
Amanda.
For 7 years, her American flatmate, Amanda Knox, was the center of a media and judicial storm, accused of Meredith's murder. In 2015, the murder convictions of Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito were overturned
So we have suspects Amanda Knox, Raffaele Sollecito. So we have to remember that.
and for all.
She deserved so much in this life. I'm the lucky one.
The family of Meredith Kircher feels let down by the Italian judiciary for the contradictory verdicts it has produced over nearly 8 years.
One thing we're not going to do on this is analyze too much body language. Lots of the videos I saw when I was trying to find a good semi-non-biased documentary for us to watch together talked about her body language, her facial expressions. Over here on my channel, we don't really care too much about that. You can get fooled by body language. You can get too many false positives. You can be swayed by tears. So tears and cracking voices and crying influences you on an emotional level. Unless you're a psychopath, it will influence you, right? It influences me. So I have to try to block it out. We evolved to communicate with our words. So if someone's going to slip up and let us catch them lying, it's going to be through their words. And it's very easy to feign expressions on your face or even look guilty just because you're traumatized and you're not reacting the way someone might think that an actor would react in a movie. So regarding any clips of Amanda Knox, we're just going to try to ignore the body language and listen to what she's saying. Even in that one clip we saw of her saying, "I'm the lucky one," is Is that a strange thing to say? Was she at risk of also getting murdered? Why is she lucky? But we're just getting into this. We're a minute and 30 seconds into this video, so let's get a little bit more bones, and then we'll put the meat of the analysis on it. I'm learning about this case at the same time you guys are. I know the bare bones of it.
Meredith Kercher grew up in Croydon, South London. In August 2007, a new university year is about to start. Meredith, now 21, prepares to leave for the ancient and peaceful hilltop city of Perugia, Italy.
She was very excited about coming to Italy, looking forward to learning more about Italian culture, seeing the city of Perugia and making new friends. And she really fought to come here. She really wanted to be here.
Mez, as everyone calls her, is studying European politics and Italian at Leeds. Now she has an exchange year in Italy, a country she's been in love with since a school trip. But saying goodbye to her sister Stephanie isn't easy.
We were just talking on the sofa and having a little cuddle goodbye, and then I just remember her suddenly crying and saying that she was going to be sad to go, but she was excited to come, and I remember being quite taken aback, so I thought, don't make me sad, I'll miss you, but you'll go and have fun.
She leaves on September the 1st, and quickly afterwards moves into the upstairs flat of this cottage with 3 housemates, 2 young Italian trainee lawyers and a student on exchange from the United States, 20-year-old Amanda Knox. Amanda has travelled almost 6,000 miles from Seattle on the northwest coast to study Italian in Perugia. Photogenic, outgoing, and describing herself as quirky, Amanda Knox loves the Beatles and Harry Potter. She's been studying at university and has worked 3 jobs to pay for her Italian adventure. She is very different from the quiet and studious Meredith. While housemates, there is said to be tension over Amanda's supposedly casual attitude to sex, money, and housework.
So we're getting some hints of a possible motive, tension between housemates living in a foreign country.
Within weeks, Amanda Knox lands a job in Perugia, working as a waitress at Le Chic, a pub owned by a popular musician from the Congo, Patrick Lumumba.
She gave me the impression of a good person. If she wasn't a good person, she wouldn't have worked here. That doesn't mean that her relationship with clients pleased me, because she often talked to the clients, and I had to tell her to get back to work.
Patrick Lumumba, I think at one point she accused him of doing the murder, if I'm correct. And that's one reason we're starting this series off with a documentary to bring us all to the table, because there are, compared to the McCanns or Me Too accusers or Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith, there's a bigger cast of characters in this Amanda Knox story, which adds another level of complexity to it. So far we have Amanda, the guy who made the 911 call, Raphael. We have Meredith Kercher, who's the victim. And we have Patrick Lumumba, Amanda's boss. And I think at one point she actually tries to throw him under the bus and say that he committed the murder.
On October the 25th, Amanda and Meredith go to a classical music concert together, where Amanda meets Italian student Raffaele Sollecito. He looks like her favorite, Harry Potter, and the two begin a whirlwind romance. Described by friends as intelligent.
And Raffaele is the one, I think, who made that 911 call in the beginning. which was a suspicious 911 call from the clip that we heard. The order he mentioned things suggested that he had knowledge of what actually happened. And his unnecessary persuasion about there being a locked door was unnecessary as well.
Intelligent and sensitive, the handsome
As always, do these red flags mean that he killed her, that he's guilty? No, of course not. We need multiple signs. What I'm doing here is pointing everything out to you as I am recognizing it myself. And I saw lots of comments about the McCanns saying, well, you know, they used this phrase and you said it was leakage and it could be a normal phrase. That's fine. I'm pointing it out because if we see 10 types of expressions all related to water, then water is clearly on the minds of the McCanns. In this case, let's say we see him relay the crime scene 5 different times, and each time he puts things in the incorrect order, saying, you know, the murderer was in the room and then he broke the window. Well, 1 time, okay, that's forgivable. 2 times, now it's really on my radar, and then 3 times it's a pattern, and now I'm extremely suspicious. So I'm pointing it out. That was 1 instance, 1 point against this guy, Raphael.
Raffaele has come to Perugia to study information technology. A week later, October the 31st, it is Halloween, and in Perugia, like every other university town, it's party time. It is one of Meredith's favorite nights out, and she is dressed as a vampire. These will turn out to be among the last photographs of her alive. Happy, full of life, and completely at home with her new friends.
One reason I've put off doing true crime for almost a year is because these are actually sad stories. Someone actually died here, and these analyses I don't take lightly. So it's not like the video game cheaters where we can sort of joke about it. Missing girls, dead girls, even some Me Too victims like Christy Mack are on the other side of the coin. Taylor Bauer are sad, right? So true crime stuff is sad. But part of that sadness means that the people involved should also know the stakes, right? If you're accused of murdering someone, you will pick your words very carefully. So it is very difficult to read too much into their words. When you're accused of a crime, especially a serious crime, you don't make flippant remarks. So the statements here, we actually look into a little bit more deeply than we would someone, denying cheating in a video game, even though I love doing those videos. So the stakes in true crime are very high, which means that the analysis is deeper, but also the statements people make are much more concrete and much more well thought out. So if there is a slip up, it's a very big slip up, and we need to point it out.
What happens on the night of November the 1st, 2007, has been the subject of 3 trials, 3 appeals, and 3 Supreme Court rulings. The story has more twists and turns than the medieval streets of Perugia itself.
I think the documentary is now going to get into the night of the murder. And as far as this case goes, that's the money shot of the case. So just be aware that if this gives us the play-by-play of what people think happened on that night, that's the money shot. That's where if someone's lying, that's what they're going to be lying about. Just like with a hoaxer, the money shot is when they saw Bigfoot, or they saw the alien, or they encountered the UFO, or the McCanns, the night Madeline went missing. The money shot of this Amanda Knox case is the night that Meredith Kercher was missing. So this is the part we need to pay attention to the most in order to inform all the other statement analysis we're going to do coming up.
The story starts at 9 o'clock in the morning on the 2nd of November, when a local woman finds 2 mobile phones in her garden. She takes them to the postal police, which handles crimes involving communication devices. They quickly discover one of the phones is registered to Via della Pergola 7, a small cottage just 500 meters away. When police arrive here, they see two students in the driveway, Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito. They tell the police the front door is open and one room has been ransacked. Police go into the house. One bedroom's a mess. Clothes are all over the floor and a large rock is lying near the window. Shortly after the postal police arrive, around 12:51, Raffaele Sollecito calls the elite police force, the Carabinieri. He doesn't mention that the postal police are already there and says nothing's been stolen. Details prosecutors would later claim are significant.
That is significant. How do you know nothing's been stolen? You have two roommates.
Pronto, buongiorno. Senta, qualcuno...
So we have another recording of a call to the police. Oh, so it's the same one. Hello? Someone entered the house and broke the window. That was the thing we keyed on 5 seconds into this documentary.
Praticamente è entrato in casa sfondando la finestra.
They messed everything up and there's a locked door. That's unnecessary persuasion. If someone ransacked your house, you don't need to tell the police that there's also a locked door. You don't need to set up the whole crime scene and try to direct the narrative. Also, if you're listening on podcast mode, this documentary showed some crime scene footage and there was a giant rock on the floor of the bedroom. If you were going to break a window, you don't need a rock the size of a loaf of Wonder Bread to do it, which also seems a little bit over the top, a little bit staged. It's like that scene in Minority Report when what's his name? When they find all the photos of the alleged kidnapper and Tom Cruise's kid all over the bed. And the detective says, do you know how many times in my career I've ever seen an orgy of evidence? And the other guy says no. And he says, never. Right? It's almost too much. Why is the stone so big? Why did he have to tell them the door was locked? It's too perfect.
Ha messo molto disordine, c'è una porta chiusa. La via è...
The address is Via della Pergola. Right? So now he's giving the address of the crime scene.
Della Pergola 7. Della Pergola 7 a Perugia. Furto in abitazione.
Now the police are trying to clarify. So break-in and theft?
No, non c'è.
No, nothing's been stolen. That is a weird thing to say. Like I said, how do you know nothing's been stolen when you have two roommates? How do you know nothing of Amanda's was stolen? How do you know nothing of Meredith was stolen? That's conclusive. Nothing's been stolen. You would expect someone calling to the police to not be sure about much, right? I'm not sure. Maybe. I haven't checked. How long was he in the house since realizing that it'd been ransacked to be able to catalog everything?
Non c'è furto.
Meanwhile, Amanda says she's worried about her friend Meredith. Her door's locked. She's not answering the phone.
Okay, so based on that phone call, Raphael admits he knows the window to Meredith's room is broken. However, there's a locked door. So did he hear the window break and that's what alerted him and then he went outside and looked at the window? Because he couldn't see through her door to see the broken window. This is very strange.
When the door is broken down, they discover a beige duvet on the floor. Beneath it, the battered...
And now we're seeing a crime scene photo. And oddly, Meredith's body has been covered with the duvet. So she's on the floor and the duvet is spread on top of her. That is strange.
And bloody body of Meredith Kercher. Prosecutor Giuliano Mignini arrives just after 2 p.m. He finds Meredith is partially naked, her bra's been cut off, and her t-shirt rolled up above her breasts. It looks like a sexual assault.
When you start an investigation, you don't know what happened. You have to slowly reconstruct the situation.
Forensics teams work inside and outside the cottage. Right away, they think it's a staged break-in. Glass.
Once again, people don't give the police enough credit. I think these Italian police are seeing what I'm seeing. It's a little bit over the top. The big rock is too much. And just like the Portuguese police with the McCanns, I think they were on the right track until they got bullied by the international press, media, governments to start looking for a kidnapper rather than focusing on the parents who they suspected from day one probably did it. Hence the lackluster response and, not sending out millions of people looking for kidnappers because they knew that the parents did it. So here I think the Italian police are correct. This looks staged to me.
Glass shards are on top rather than underneath the scattered clothes.
Glass shards are on top of the clothes. I think they're going to get into this window thing now, that the window is broken from inside. Right, based on that phone call, it sounded like what he was saying, what Rafael was saying was someone came into the house and broke the window. So if you're in the house and you break the window, you broke the window from inside.
Inside and outside the cottage. Right away, they think it's a staged break-in. Glass shards are on top rather than underneath the scattered clothes. The large rock seems too heavy to be thrown from the ground to the first floor window.
Bingo. Oh, so this window's on the first floor. It's not on the ground floor. So that rock is too unnecessary, too much persuasion. If you were trying to break a window up one story, you wouldn't need to throw a rock. It looks like the size of a loaf of Wonder Bread to me.
Glass shards are on top rather than underneath the scattered clothes. The large rock seems too heavy to be thrown from the ground to the first floor window, and too big to go through the small crack between the shutters. A handbag.
Actually, maybe when they say first floor, they mean this is the ground
floor. Be thrown from the ground to the first floor window, and too big to go through the small crack between the shutters. A handbag, jewelry case, camera, and laptop computer are lying in full view.
Right. Obvious things that a burglar would have taken are still there. Colin Farrell, that's the actor, right? You know how many times I've seen an orgy of evidence in my career? Never. Not once. So I think the Italian police are thinking the same thing. This is too perfect. It's too obvious that someone threw a rock in it. So this is clearly a burglar because the door was locked. So the roommates definitely didn't do it. But it's also half-baked because why not at least pretend to be a burglar all the way and steal some of the stuff from her room? Which lends the opinion that it's not staged, that this was just some manic murderer. Very strange. Will all this come into more focus once we start hearing statements from Amanda and Rafael? Yes, I think so. So far, we've only heard the phone call from Rafael, and that seemed to have given away exactly how this window was broken. Someone was inside with a rock and broke the window. So that we can expect some leakage to come up if they were leaking that on the phone call to the police.
There's a line of bloody shoe prints from Meredith's room to the front door. And in the bathroom, a bloody bare footprint is on the bath mat. Over 4 days, investigators collect more than 400 items from the apartment, photographing and filming their work. Meredith's bra has been sliced off, but when police bag it for evidence, they notice something is missing.
Sì, è stato strappato, ma anche la parte dei gancetti.
È stato strappato.
Sì, qui è uscito.
So the police are commenting, the forensics team, that the hooks are missing from the bra.
La parte dei gancetti, il
sì.
maschio della grappina.
Manca il pezzo del gancetto.
Sì.
Però il fatto, l'unica cosa è che è intriso di sangue, quindi questo ce l'aveva nel...
So they're saying she had the bra on when she was killed based on the blood spray, but the clasps are missing from the bra.
momento in cui è stata ammazzata.
Somehow, the investigators leave without it, a critical error that will haunt the prosecution case. The autopsy shows Meredith has been strangled and stabbed on 2 sides of the neck, possibly with 2 different knives. The second fatal stab severed her thyroid artery. There are 40 wounds, too many, police believe, for one assailant to have inflicted alone.
40 wounds. So she was stabbed 40 times? Would a cat burglar... Well, first of all, the theory that's a burglar is out because they didn't steal anything. So it's either Amanda and Raphael, or one or the other, Amanda or Raphael, or both of them, are bloodthirsty psychopathic murderers, or an actual outside serial killer, right? Some psychopath came in from outside and murdered her. This is not a cat burglary gone wrong.
The prosecution's view of what happened, later disputed by the defense, is shown in this reconstruction. Meredith was trained in karate and must have encountered overwhelming force.
Una stessa persona non poteva contemporaneamente tenere.
One person couldn't, all at the same time, hold Meredith still and hold back her hands because there are very few defensive wounds. Inflict those wounds with a smaller knife.
I mean, she could have been drugged. So far, I think the Italian police have lost the plot a little bit now. They left evidence behind, and now they're insisting that this was some sort of gang attack. Not necessarily so. One person can stab someone 40 times. It's happened.
Knife and then give her the fatal blow with the larger knife. It is impossible. Not even Superman could do it.
I don't like when people are so conclusive this early on. So I think now the Italian police are not going to be so helpful to us in our analysis. We're going to have to do it on our own.
Sì, beh, neanche Superman ci riuscirebbe.
The behavior of Amanda Knox and her boyfriend attracts attention. Meredith's friends tell police that, far from appearing distraught, Amanda and Raffaele have been seen laughing and joking. A vigil is held for Meredith, but Amanda and Raffaele don't attend. They go for dinner at a friend's instead. And
is that strange? Yes. Although if they went to the vigil and were weepy and making a big show of it, that would also be strange, like too much persuasion. So that's why I don't like to look at too many outside facts. I think we have the rough outline of what happened now, so we could point out inconsistencies in statements. We sort of have the theories now. It was either some serial killer or some deranged psychopath broke in with a bloodlust, or it was Amanda and Raphael working together, or one or the other murdering her. And the reason, I don't know, if you argue with your roommate, that's not a good enough reason. So either one of them or both of them are deranged psychopathic killers, or they were fueled by like meth or some mind-altering drug. Like you see that story of the bath salts a while back, where people were basically turning into zombies and eating off other people's faces. And then they came to and they thought, okay, we need to stage some sort of scene here.
And the prosecutor recalls why he was concerned by Amanda's behavior.
Quando furono portate queste ragazze a vedere I coltelli che c'erano nella cucina.
When the girls were brought to see the knives that were in the kitchen, the reaction of Amanda, it was a reaction. She put her hands on her ears, as if she were trying to block out a terrible sound she was hearing in her ears.
Uh-oh. So we have a body language expert now. This is why I don't like body language analysis. It can lead you down the wrong path. A girl covering her ears means nothing to me. A girl saying, oh, that knife, I can hear screams in my head when I look at that knife. That is revealing to me. Right? We didn't evolve to communicate with our hands and our arms. I mean, and our arms and our legs, or, this foot's pointing that way, or that eye is looking over there, and this is looking over here. That's not how we evolved to communicate. We evolved to communicate with our words, with language. And the average English speaker has a dictionary of around 20 to 30,000 words. And every time you decide to say something, you have to go into your internal dictionary and pick the words you're going to use and put them in a grammatical structure and deliver them. And that process is how we can detect lies, because while you're performing that seemingly simple task, your brain is going through a lot of motions. And if you're lying while you're picking those words, your brain is remembering what actually happened so that it can edit that out before you deliver your sentence of words. Or if you're making something up, your brain has to remember the truth and then remember what you're fabricating and try to pick the appropriate words to deliver. So that complex task is how we reveal ourselves. The word choice is how you reveal that you're lying. Lying is not a simple process. So, like I said, I was happy with the Italian police in the beginning, thinking that the crime scene was staged. But since then, I think we're going to have to rely on their analysis less and less, and we're going to have to do this on our own here once we start listening to statements. Well, let's let the documentary play through and see if there's any more background stuff it's going to show us. For example, I know at some point Amanda accused her boss of committing the murder, which, if she's innocent, is a very strange thing to do. If you're innocent, you don't need to provide a narrative for the police to follow, to direct them away from you, right? You don't need to provide the culprit. So is them not going to Meredith's memorial service, does that mean they're guilty? No, not necessarily. Maybe they're trying to process it. Maybe they don't want to be exposed to that. Or people already suspect them, so they feel like it would be awkward to be there and have people staring at them, right? There's plenty of reasons why they wouldn't go to that. There's plenty of reasons why Amanda might put her hands up to the side of her head when she's looking at bloody knives.
It was like she was having a nervous breakdown.
Ebbe proprio un cedimento nervoso.
And then there was this, one of the defining images of the case. Amanda and Raffaele kissing outside the cottage where Meredith was murdered. Her supporters say this was only natural.
Did they comfort each other? We've seen that famous footage of the two of them together. They did. What's wrong with any of that?
I agree with this lady. Exactly. So what?
Nothing. It did appear to be wrong to some authorities.
November the 5th, 4 days after the murder. Raffaele Sollecito is called in for questioning. Amanda goes with him, and once again her behavior seems odd. She does yoga and the splits in the waiting room. At this point, the couple's alibi appears to fall apart. Amanda had told police she'd spent the night of the murder at Raffaele's apartment. They cooked, watched a film, made love, smoked marijuana, and went to bed. But separately, Raffaele's story begins to change.
And here's the problem with co-conspirators. It's very difficult to lie by yourself because you have to line up all your lies with things you said in the past. But to lie with someone else is a whole other degree more difficult. It's exponentially harder because you have to line up everything you say, not with just yourself, what you said in the past, all your past statements, and try to line it up with any bit of evidence that may potentially get discovered in the future. You have to do the same with someone else. So everything that Raphael says has to match what you say. And the McCanns, I feel, understood that issue, which is why they scripted their story so well. If you look at my series on McCanns, you'll see they never deviate from their story of what happened to Madeleine that night. And it's a very rigid story that they tell. So I have an episode all about scripting. So apparently Amanda and Raphael, if they did commit the murder, did not have the forethought to script their story well. So let's see what Raphael says they did that night.
He's no longer sure if Amanda was with him all night. Amanda's called in for more questioning. As she is only a witness at this stage, an interpreter is present, but she has no legal representation. What happens next is crucial and one of the most controversial twists in the story. Police ask Amanda Knox about text messages on her phone. In particular, a message from her boss, Patrick Lumumba.
Don't come to work tonight because there aren't enough clients. It's like Sunday. I sent that message not to come.
Amanda had texted back, "See you later." She says she just meant see you around. But police now want to know. Had Amanda arranged to meet Lumumba later that evening and taken him to her house? At 1:45 in the morning, Amanda breaks down.
She says she had entered the house with him because he was attracted to Meredith and wanted to be with Meredith. And
Now the plot thickens. So Raphael says he and Amanda were at his house all night. And Amanda, apparently under questioning, has concocted this story that she took her boss to her house that night at 1-something in the morning so he could meet with Meredith.
And she stayed in the kitchen and heard Meredith's screams, and he was the assassin. That's what she said.
Police believe Amanda Knox's story. They raid Patrick Lumumba's home and take him in. Within hours, his photo flashes around the world as one of the murder suspects. But for the police, Amanda Knox has now gone from witness to suspect. If she's taken Lumumba to Meredith, she must have been at the house.
Lei si è posta nel luogo del delitto.
She put herself at the scene of the crime. She admitted to accompanying Lumumba as if she were an accomplice in his project. She was in the room next door when the crime happened, in her version. This fact pushed the police to suspend the audition in order to protect her rights.
Ha spinto la polizia per ragioni di garanzia a sospendere l'audizione.
November the 6th, 2007. Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito are arrested. Waiting to be taken to jail, Amanda makes another attempt to tell police what happened with Lumumba by writing out an explanation in English.
So this is something we need to analyze at some point. Maybe I'll have an AI with a girl's voice read it and we can listen to it and analyze it. So I'm going to make a mental note to analyze that at some point. But right now, let's keep listening to this documentary and get the full story before we do a deep dive.
She tells the police it's a present.
In my mind, I saw Patrick in flashes of blurred images. I saw him near the basketball court. I saw him at my front door. I saw myself cowering in the kitchen with my hands over my ears, because in my head I could hear Meredith screaming. But I have said this many times so as to make myself clear. These things seem unreal to me, like a dream. I want to make it clear that I'm very doubtful of the verity of my statements because they were made under the pressure of stress, shock, and extreme exhaustion.
But despite her uncertainty, she doesn't retract her accusation. Lumumba remains in jail, pleading his innocence. In the city square, members of the African community protest his arrest.
The black man is always the thief and the assassin. She wanted them to believe what she was saying. It was just because I was black. She was looking for someone in society who was credible.
There was a moment when she should have actually retracted that story. There's a moment when she should have said, no, this is the wrong thing to do. He was thrown into jail for 2 weeks, or just over 2 weeks, for something he did not do, and he lost his life.
Let's say Lumumba didn't do it, and I don't think he did. I don't think he's one of these top suspects. Let's say, so what type of person accuses an innocent person with zero regard for what might happen to them? What if Lumumba were convicted? Would she have recanted then? If not, then she is psychopathic as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not a clinician, so I can't diagnose her. But that is a truly heartless thing to do. And it reminds me of some of these Me Too hoaxers, like the woman who accused Trevor Bauer of assaulting her when she actually had it planned out from day one that she would accuse him. So this is a type of sick, psychopathic mentality. It's truly vile. So that is a big point against Amanda, that she accused an innocent guy without recanting. Let's see if she recants, but according to what I'm hearing here, she never recanted. That is the sign of a psychopath and someone who could actually do something truly horrendous to someone and not feel bad about it. So now we're starting to paint the picture of Amanda Knox, and not based on, videos of her being consoled by Raphael in the driveway, but actual things she has done, decisions she has made, which is much more powerful than body language. They were hugging in the driveway. So what? This is a big decision to accuse an innocent person and let them go through the entire process without recanting is sick.
Livelihood.
At this point, another African immigrant enters the story. 20-year-old Rudy Guede from the...
Rudy Guede. So now we have another person in our ensemble of characters. This is the most complex just background story of any analysis we've done so far on the channel, right? Usually the analysis we do involve maximum 3 people. This is a big case with lots of moving parts, which is why we're introducing it this way. I just want to bring everyone to the table, including myself, so we're all speaking from the same base knowledge of the case. And I think I tried to find a documentary that looked as non-biased as possible for us to do this. So far, this one seems fairly non-biased, which is good.
The Ivory Coast is living in Perugia. Detectives find his bloody thumbprint on a pillowcase that was underneath Meredith's dead body. Because he's an immigrant, they have his prints on file. Police raid his tiny bedsit apartment and test his toothbrush for DNA. It matches traces found on Meredith's bra strap on her body, and on the left sleeve of her pale blue sweatshirt. Rudy Guede has fled the country. He's arrested in Germany.
Good. So we have this guy at the scene of the crime, Rudy Guede. We have his fingerprints on her clothes, on the pillow below her. That is pretty damning evidence. And does that mean he did it? Not necessarily, right? Let's see how this plays out. Does it mean he did it alone if he did it? No, right? Amanda and Raphael could still be involved. Or just Amanda and Rudy, or just Raphael and Rudy, right? Any combination of these players.
Perugia attorney Walter Biscotti volunteers to defend him.
Incontrai questo ragazzo.
I met this young man in this prison in Schiffenstadt, Germany. And he seemed to me like a guy who was scared, someone who was in the middle of a story that was bigger than him. He was surprised to see a lawyer who arrived from Italy for him.
Un avvocato che era arrivato dall'Italia per lui.
Extradited back to Italy, Rudy Guede confirms to police that he's lived in the country since the age of 5. A keen basketball player, he'd met Amanda and Meredith after shooting hoops with students who lived in the apartment below theirs. They partied and smoked dope together. Meanwhile, the case against Patrick Lumumba, as outlined by Amanda Knox, collapses. A customer at the bar has given him an alibi, and he's free.
Good. I never thought this guy was an actual suspect. Because when you hear this story, you always hear it's got to be Amanda or Raphael. So this, I think we can all agree, was an innocent guy. Amanda offered up his name like a sacrifice, which is sick, which is a sign of someone who's heartless. Since we don't want to diagnose her as a psychopath, I'm not a clinician, I'm going to say she is heartless, and a heartless person can commit murder. So do I think Amanda's capable of it? Yes. A normal person would not be able to sleep. Their conscience would eat at them if they were throwing an innocent person, someone who gave them a job, first of all, in Italy, right? It was her boss at the cafe. Potentially putting him on death row or whatever Italy's equivalent of life in prison for something he didn't do. That's not something a normal person can do.
How did Amanda Knox come to mention Lumumba's name to...
And also offering him up as a sacrifice, whether she was guilty or innocent is still sick. If she was innocent, she would feel particularly bad putting someone else in that position that she's suffering in right now.
To police. For the first time, we can hear an audio tape of her explanation to the prosecutor. A transcript of this was presented in court, but not the audio. Accompanied by 3 lawyers and an interpreter, on December the 17th, 2007, Knox is asked why she told police Lumumba committed the crime.
Perché se lo era immaginato?
Why did you imagine? Oh, they have a translator.
Why? I was stressed, I was scared, it was after long hours, it was in the middle of the...
So they said, why did you mention him? And she's saying, why? I was stressed, I was scared, it was after long hours in the middle of the night. Do people make up stories and false confessions in those circumstances? Yes. Right, people actually admit to crimes in those circumstances. But to not retract it later is the sign of the psychopath, right? Is the heartless thing. You can say almost anything if the police interrogate you long enough, which is why many confessions are thrown out if it's clear that they were coerced, right? If the person was sleep deprived or under duress. You can get people to say just about anything under the right circumstances. But typically those people will come to and recant and take back their confession or take back what they said. And it seems like she never did that until Patrick cleared his name. And if that's not correct, if she did recant, please let me know in the comments, because then I'll update my opinion of her. But right now, the fact that she said it, I forgive. People can say just about anything, but to not retract it, to not recant, that is the sick part.
Of the night, I was innocent, and they were telling me that I was guilty.
Che cosa le diceva la polizia?
What did police tell you? The police were telling me that we know you're at our house, we know that you left the house, and with the moment before I said Patrick's name, they were someone was showing me the message that I would send on the phone.
Che cosa c'è di più normale che insistere? La polizia fa la sua parte.
I couldn't understand why they were telling me that I was lying. They kept telling me that I was lying.
Ma perché poi prima ci ha detto potrebbe essere vero.
It means that in that moment that I had said Patrick's name, I thought it could have been true.
So all this is personal. Like, it might be unbelievable to you, but it's actually reasonable. People will say just about anything under duress and under enough stress. So what she's saying here, I accept. That's fine. Like, she said his name. Was that a cool thing to do? No. But in the mental state she was probably in, I can see it happening. Plenty of people would do the exact same thing. But to not recant is the bad thing, right? That's my main point here.
So what?
Once you're back in your normal state of mind and you can see things clearly, you can, most people come to you and say, you know what, that thing I said about Patrick, it's not true. I'm sorry, I was sleep deprived. Then she can use all those explanations for why she said what she said after recanting.
So what's the extent of the police evidence at this point? It includes the knife.
So since the documentary is going to give us a recap of the evidence, I'm going to end this video here, so we'll get a nice recap at the start of part 2 of this series. Until next time, stay true.